Just sit right back and you'll hear a tale of your faithful trip. It started in the firmament, and then we all got tricked. Life was great when we were young, with all the things we believed. Then it all got hard, unbearable, and we know we're being deceived. Forgotten, ignored, secret, and hidden. Topics that talk about how water is knowledge. Now drink from the fountain. Let's pour some on you now. Hello, my name is Alex, and I'm going to tell you about my near-death experience. I have told this story before, and I have a video out on YouTube that you may have already seen. That one I shot with my cell phone. It was just one take, and I talked into my phone upright, and I left out some details, and I've had some comments on that video. I hope to tell the story a little faster so that I can hold you to the end, and I want you to watch to the end so you see the whole story. And then if you make it to there and you want to stay, I will tell you what I thought about the experience and how it's affected my life. In 2012, I believe this was December 2nd or December 3rd or 4th of 2012. There was food contamination in these bagged salads, and it was all over town. It was in the news, and there were people with bacterial infections that were filling up hospitals, and it might have been listeria. I had it for about 3 days, and I'd had flu-like symptoms, and I'd been very tired, and I'd had this infection for about 3 days, and I wasn't sleeping well, and I was fatigued, and I was in a lot of pain in my abdomen. And one night, this was about 2:45, 3 o'clock in the morning, I was rolling over in the bed and I couldn't lay down, and my stomach would hurt so bad, and I would feel like I had to throw up, or I would throw up, and I'd go back to bed, and then I'd get back up and walk around, and then I'd walk around and pace the house until I was so fatigued I had to lay back down again. Then my stomach would hurt and I'd get back up again. So I got in the shower and I turned on the water as hot as I could stand it, and it was probably 102 to 104 degrees. It was about like the temperature of jacuzzi water, or maybe hotter. I got in and I was going around in circles in the shower water, and I put my hand up on the tile, and I was going around like this and just thinking, oh, hot water helps you a lot when you're in a lot of pain. Corporal pain, your body just aches and hurts all over. I needed some hot water. So suddenly I had to throw up, and I had projectile vomit, and I went, and when I vomited, I hit my head, just pile drove my head right into the wall and the tile, and I was like, oh, boom, it slipped me right off my feet. It's like I just collapsed, and I slipped off my feet and I fell on the floor. This was in like a 2-foot square shower tub. When it knocked me off my feet and I fell on the floor, I fell on my face, and in fact, I have a scar here, and I told you just last week I had just had a scar revision here. Actually, that problem on my face started with this story. So as I'm laying there on the floor, my left rib cage here is covering the floor drain, and I look and I see the edge of the fiberglass shower tub, which is like 4 inches tall, 4.5 inches tall, and I'm thinking, oh, don't pass out, don't go to sleep, you're gonna drown. And here I was balled up in this 2-foot square shower tub, and I just passed out. I remember just looking at that and thinking, oh, I'll be okay. And I was so fatigued and worn out, I could not lift myself off of the floor to save my life, to keep from drowning. And that's the last thing I remembered. The next experience I had was in what you would call the spirit world, but I was in another place. I've heard people describe this place before as hell, actually, but it wasn't hell. Like, I didn't see any celebrities or famous dictators or anything like that. But there were people around me. I was like in a bubble. It was like caviar, but it was also kind of like a cubicle. But you could see through it, and you could see all of these people in different states of morbidity, and obviously everyone in there in that space had just passed away or died. and some of them were moaning and yelling, and depending on how they died, this area is what I believe now is like a decompression space, or it's a place where you go to adjust. Your spirit has to adjust from being in your body to coming out and going back into the spirit world, because your body can actually, your spiritual body, I've been out of body before where I had a shape of a transparent ball, like a sphere, about 2.5 feet in diameter. But in this experience, I had human form, and I think that's because it was so recent that I was still, my energy was still in human form. So I'm in this bubble, and I remember looking off to my right at this man. He was on his hands and his knees, and he was moaning. And I can't remember the details of what was happening to him, but there were two beings above me. They were like on the front left corner of my space, and they were talking about me, and one said to the other, "He doesn't belong here. What is he doing here? Send him back to the shower." And I remember it's like I came up out of that space and I turned around 180 degrees and I went back to the shower. Okay, then that experience ends. And I didn't remember it when the next event started. So then the next event is I just get up in the shower and I'm on my knees and I'm going around in the shower water, and I have my eyes closed. I'm like, wow, I feel so much better. You know, I don't feel any more pain. The pain's gone. And I started to think throwing up and all that did really good. And I could feel the water tickling my ribs, and it was touching my organs, and it was going through my heart. I could actually feel water going through my organs and my body. And it was, I had never felt that before, and it was hot. And then I could hear the water. The water was hitting the water that was, have you ever been in the shower, if you have a tub and you plugged a drain, and if the water's ankle deep, you can hear it. It sounds different than if the water's just hitting the tub. So I can hear that the water's deep, but I can actually, with my eyes closed, spiritual eyes closed, I can see the water drops hitting the water as they go in, the energy from the water hitting water, displacing like this energy that would come out in all these different colors. And it kind of looked like tattoo designs, symmetrical tattoo designs. And then I could look around and I could see different colors of the rainbow, all the different colors, and like noise, but it was some kind of frequencies and things that I didn't know how to read. But I was reading with my hands, and I had my eyes closed and my hands up, and I was looking around and hearing things with my hands. I don't know how I did that. And you know, I saw like Mandelbrot patterns, where, have you ever seen those patterns where you see like a paisley looking design or something, and as it gets bigger you can see another one, things like that. And it's like I had my eyes closed and I could see all these things that were all energy based. It wasn't earth reality, it was this energy space I was in as an energy being, as a light being. And then when I realized the water was deep, and I thought, I've never done this before, what am I doing? You know, I feel the water in my organs, and my shower tub doesn't even have a drain plug, so how am I hearing the water deep, you know? So I opened my eyes and I looked down, and there's a body laying in the tub, balled up, and I notice on the head there's regurgitation, some vomit of different colors, and it's on the top of the head right here, and there are bubbles going up the wall. Some of the bubbles were this big, and they're going up the wall like 3-4 inches up the tile. And I thought, I don't remember what I thought other than just observing. There was no opinion or emotion about it. It was just, Yeah, you just recognize things, and you're looking around, and I looked down at my other end. I say my, but I didn't know it was me yet. And evidently I had things coming out of both ends when I fell, but that was kind of secluded in its own corner behind me, thank goodness. And I started looking at the face, and then I recognized that face, and I thought, that's my face, that's me. And so then I noticed my mouth and my nose were underwater, and I thought, well, I don't breathe that way, so I'm not breathing. And then it just hit me. I'm dead. And as soon as I started to feel that, and that fear set in, the realization as a spirit out of your body that you actually have died and left your body and you didn't even know it, and you just realized it. And that fear vibration actually sucked me back into this world. That's how I would describe it. And it was kind of painful, because I came back, and I remember I opened my eyes underwater, and I saw the water level up here, and I was kind of smushed into the tub like this with my face, and I looked up, and when I saw the water, I just rolled up, and I must have flipped around like a spider in a jar, and that door popped open with the magnet, and I rolled out onto the floor of my bathroom, and I just exhaled water like a garden hose, just shot out of my mouth, and it was actually going up onto the sink counter in the bathroom. I had a big master bath with the shower stall, an oval tub, 2 sinks, a little short wall, and a toilet, and a walk-in closet. And I noticed with my hands that I was splashing water. I looked down, there's like a quarter or a half an inch of water on the floor, going all the way across my bathroom, almost over to the toilet, which is like 10, 12 feet. So I stood up and I looked in the mirror, and it was gross. My eyelids were just sagging to one side, and they were just open. And the meat on my rib cage, where it had been covering the drain, looked like a French fry grater. And I had little nubs like half a centimeter long or centimeter long that were all, my skin had soaked and saturated and started to go down the drain. And when I pulled myself off of it, it left a scar. I would actually like to get a picture with a UV light, and I bet you're going to see the drain with the French fry cutter pattern. So I paced around my house for a while, and then I went to the 7-Eleven to go get some coffee. I noticed the sun was coming up. I just was pacing around for like an hour or more, trying to figure out what had just happened and piecing everything together that I saw. And I still didn't even understand fully what had happened. I got to the store, and the attendant there, Marvin, he saw me all the time. He was from Bangladesh. He is from Bangladesh. And he just looked at me and he goes, "What happened to you? Oh my God." He goes, "What happened to you?" Oh, he wouldn't even look at me, and he just said, "You're not even the same color. You look like you've aged 20 years overnight. What in the world? What happened to you?" And I just looked at him. I said, "Is it that obvious?" He goes, "What happened to you?" And he started looking at me. He just goes, "You're not even the same color." I said, "Well, I had an accident in the shower. I was underwater. I'll tell you about it later." And I left and I went home. That's what happened. I was underwater for at least an hour to an hour and a half, because I plugged the drain the next day or 2 days later, and I timed to see how far it would take to go over the fiberglass wall, and that was about 35 minutes. And then to get across the whole, I didn't do that because I didn't want to flood my kitchen below. But I calculated to be able to cross the bathroom floor like that, it had to have been at least an hour to an hour and 20 minutes. But I have a friend who's a veterinarian, and he told me because the water was so hot that probably it kept my body temperature at normal level, within a normal range that allowed me to come back. So what have I taken from this experience? Well, there is an afterlife. I didn't see a guardian angel. I didn't go to heaven and talk to God or Christ. Although I do have prior experiences. If you look at one video I have, it's called "I Met God." That was wide awake as a missionary celibate in Argentina when I was at a much higher vibration, let's say, in my life. At this time, when this death experience happened to me, I was not living such a righteous life. I was divorced, living in North Dallas, Plano, Frisco area, and just partied all the time. I could never stay home alone. I was always out riding my Harley Davidson or, my sports car, going around. I had lots of friends and girlfriends, and we had big parties, and I wasn't at all in tune with God at that time in my life. And I think when you die, your experience that you see has to do with the life that you're living. And I don't believe that it's necessarily hell because you're judged and you're sent there. It's hell because you're in a low vibration and you're not even thinking at a higher level. And until you raise your lifestyle and your vibrations and pray and think about God all the time and how to be a righteous, good person, that's probably what's going to happen to you if you have a near-death experience. And another thing that I picked up was, I believe that room that I went into, that was kind of like a decompression chamber for all of the people who had just died. I believe if I would have continued in that line, in that group, I would have eventually gone to a place where I would have reincarnated, probably would have had the life review and been given a second chance to come back and try it all over again. And which I don't want to do when I die. I want to try to ascend and move beyond the fourth or the astral world, and some people talk about how the moon actually has part of that effect, where it's probably through the moon somehow that we go to reincarnate, which would mean resurrection is not a correct principle. And I know people are going to comment and argue about that, but if you look at the story of Jesus in the New Testament, it seems to be the story, excuse me for saying, but Constantine gave us the Bible, okay, the New Testament, seems to be the story of the son of the whore of Babylon. You're talking about stories of like Tammuz, who became the sun god Baal, and he resurrected on winter solstice. And the cross is actually the center of the zodiac, and paying for sins is Babylonian, which would mean the Last Supper never happened, which would mean baptism, which represents, by immersion, which represents death and resurrection, is not correct. Which, if you go to my experience as a missionary, God asked me, why do you want to baptize this family? Which left me speechless at thinking, why do we baptize? There's nothing new under the sun. I'm a Christian, but I call myself a cross-free Christian. I believe you can raise your vibration, you can be more righteous, you can think about things that will raise your body in tune enough. As the people that talk about consciousness and the chakras, that's true. If you're at the highest level, you can literally leave your body and see God. But you would have to be celibate, I believe, and really, really in tune and have a desire. But if you're living a worldly life like I was when this happened, that's not where you're going to go when you die. I'm not saying you can't get there eventually, but it's going to take you longer as a spirit. So that's my experience. I wanted to share this with you. Like I said, I've included a few more details. The first time I recorded this, I didn't remember that place I was in the bubble where the beings were talking and sent me back to the shower, because I didn't realize I had that in my memory, but I didn't even recall it until at a later time, and figured out that that went before I came out of my body as a spirit in the shower when I felt the water going through me. It was like the movie Inception, kind of, where one occurred within the other, like layers of an onion in time somehow. So I hope you enjoyed my story. Thank you for coming, and I hope you learned something from my story. If you disagree on my conclusions, sorry about that. I'm still a cross-free Christian. Have a nice day. Bye.